The world has only felt the impact of the coronavirus for a couple of months, but this virus has nonetheless left an indelible mark on all of us. Today we sit down with Rowena Poitier-Sutherland, Director of Culture at the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, to talk about Bahamian culture in the face of COVID-19. It's always a pleasure to see you, Mrs. Sutherland.
It's always a pleasure to see you, Leah. Thank you so much for having me.
I just want to ask you how you're doing right now. I know this is a tough time for everybody.
It is a mentally and spiritually very tough time because we don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of uncertainty. But to respond to your question, I'm actually very well. You know, I'm thankful to have my family. I'm thankful that we're all healthy. And the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture has been operating this entire time. And my team has been innovative. We've had a fierce leader in our minister who's really painting a very clear vision in the direction that we have to go. And so we're making lemonade with the lemons that we've been handed in the situation. So I'm good, and my team at the ministry is good.
So we know that culture is guided by purpose and values, and is usually put to the test during crisis, which is happening right now. What has been our cultural response to COVID-19, and what Bahamian cultural values would you say are being highlighted at this time?
Oh, that's a good question. I think our tenacity, I think our willingness to persevere, our strength, our dignity, more than ever, I'm seeing us really tap into what it means to be Bahamian, because the theme has been, we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same situation. And so we're really conversing about how do we navigate in our cultural society? Is that something that we regularly honor? How, and if it isn't, what do we need to do to get on that same playing field in terms of uniting, having one voice and understanding who we are as Bahamians. So that's been an interesting conversation, and I think that more than anything has really been rearing its head at this time.
Now, some experts are suggesting that our cultural behaviors determine how we as a country will overcome the disease. For example, our tendency to go to the beach on holidays or even sneak to gather with family and friends. Can you comment? Do you feel this is an accurate statement?
I think it is, but I also think that that's a very vast question to navigate. Of course, I think we have behaviors that are telling in terms of how we will navigate any situation. This is a global pandemic, and nobody the world over knows how anyone will really overcome or navigate the situation. And so we're learning the data as we go. And certainly those are indicators, but what is it an indicator of? You know, that's another really good question. Is it an indicator that we're going to come together as community because that's our natural culture? Do we gravitate towards that? Is it our rebellious nature? So we're just going to rebel and it's going to be a longer process because we won't adhere to these policies? I don't know the answers, but I think it's worth having the conversation. It's worth observing and definitely worth documenting so that we understand who we are as people.
Definitely. There's no doubt that even when the economy fully reopens, many social cultural gatherings may still not take place for a while. What can we do to bring our culture to life in the upcoming weeks and months? And what are the plans of the Department of Culture in respect to independence and other celebrations?
I'm so glad that you asked this question. And to my artists out there, this right now is a call to action from the Division of Cultural Affairs and the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. Right now, we're using this as an opportunity to get things done. This is not a time for conversation. This is not a time for speculation. It's a time for us to gather data and a time for us to execute. And so what do I mean by that? I mean, for one, we are organizing a national cultural database. And what this will do is it will allow us to know exactly across the Bahamas what type of artists we have, in what field, at what level, and what the needs are, and the way forward, so that we can best support you financially with technical support and information as a ministry, because that is what we're there to do. We're there for the people to access these tools. And so that's a call to action. That's one of the things that we're doing We also have a platform whereby people can express themselves. So we're collaborating. We have a show coming out called The Collective that will be online, where we talk about the industry. One of the mandates of the ministry is to focus on the creation of the creative economy. That's known as the orange economy. So artists, this is language also that you need to have and to understand. You need to understand creative cultural industry. That's called CCI. You need to understand the orange economy. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's about a $12 billion industry that the Bahamas is missing out on. And I think now more than ever, the powers that be will see that this is a viable industry that we really need to put due care and attention to and to execute in these areas. And we can't do that without the data. And so we're going to use this as an opportunity to gather data and then to intentionally and effectively respond so that we have an actual creative economy and that artists can live and flourish in the Bahamas as opposed to having to go elsewhere.
How receptive do you think Bahamian artists and fans will be to adjustments made to national cultural events?
I think everyone is on the same wavelength right now. I think everybody wants the same thing. We want our artists to succeed. One of the things that we really need to recognize is that artists across the world have been hit first and the hardest, especially when it comes to live performances. That is how many of us make our money. And so now more than ever, artists around the world need support of governments, need the support of the private sector. And so we have to be creative to provide these platforms and these opportunities. So right now, the response that I've been getting, and the minister and myself and members of the ministry have been meeting with these key groups, such as the Junkanoo community, the musicians, and we're going to continue to do that because, like I said, we're gathering the data. But I think everyone is receptive to implementing and executing new ways to showcase their talents and to work, because the economy must continue, and we have to make a living as artists. And I include myself in that because I'm an artist. So I understand firsthand that cry.
Good stuff. I know the Bahamian artist community is always looking for representation, and this is a wonderful start. We're having an engaging conversation with the Director of Culture from the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, Mrs. Rowena Poitier-Sutherland. We'll be right back.
Self-isolation means taking simple steps to avoid close contact with other people as much as possible, as you would with the seasonal flu. If you've been in close contact with somebody confirmed with COVID-19 or suspect that you have it, self-isolate for 14 days. You can self-isolate by staying indoors and away from family for 14 days. Choose a well-ventilated room with a closed door. Household members should stay in a different room, or if that is not possible, maintain a distance of at least 3 feet. Use a sealed waste basket and double bag your waste before disposal. Limit movement in your house. Stay in your assigned space away from the rest of the household. The caretaker will bring food and anything else you need. Use separate cookery and cutlery. Use a separate bathroom and clean it regularly. Use separate towels, separate cleaning linens, and clothing. If you are in need of care by household members, limit the number of caregivers. Assign one person who is in good health and has minimum risk conditions. Most importantly, remember, do not invite others over. Should you or anyone you know feel that you've been exposed to the coronavirus, contact the COVID-19 hotline at the Ministry of Health immediately. To reach us, call 376-9350, 376-9387, 300-2619, or our 24-hour hotline at 502-7382. For more information, visit covid19.gov.bs.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Ministry of Health and this television station.
Welcome back to A Closer Look from the Streets. I'm your host, Leah Cooper, and we're having an engaging conversation with the Director of Culture at the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, Mrs. Rowena Poitier. It's great having you with us. We were just talking about all the wonderful plans that you have for the support of artists in our country, and just for clarification, I wanted to know, who does the Department of Culture consider an artist?
Well, that I'm going to try to be as succinct as possible. There's a broad answer and there's a specific answer. The broad answer, in my personal opinion, is that we are all artists. When we're born by nature. We are creative beings. There are terms within that professionally that the ministry considers artists. So you have your recreational artists who do it just for fun. They're not to be discounted. They are part of the community. Then you have your semi-professionals who are at different levels in terms of their skill and ability. And then you have the professional artist. And the professional artist is someone who pursues their artistry as an occupation, whether that be part-time or full-time. As we know in our country, we do not have a stable orange economy. And so it's very difficult to pursue your art as a full-time occupation. So we have very few people who do that. But those that do pursue it for a living are considered professional artists.
A new UNESCO initiative channels artists' creativity to combat the flood of rumors around COVID-19. Recently, a Ugandan pop star partnered with another African artist to create a song which quickly became a sensation. It launched under the hashtag Don't Go Viral, and it's called Coronavirus Alert by Bobby Wine. It's openly licensed so that anyone can download, share, use, and play it. So far in Africa, more than 400 artists from 36 countries have participated. What has been the response of the Bahamian creative community to COVID-19? Have any movements or campaigns emerged?
I've seen quite a few campaigns emerged. We have, I know we have karaoke. I know we have song competitions. We have poetry competitions. There's a Junkanoo initiative that's now out. At the ministry, we have hashtag We Got You with NAGB, where artists have been sharing their work. We're showing the national exhibition. We're providing support for artists, of course, psychologically, and any outlet that we possibly can. We really want to hear from our artist community. We're all about partnership. We have a hashtag Clean Shelter campaign going on the ministry's Facebook page. And so we want all of our artists to come out and, like they've done in Africa, really spread the message of the importance of accurate information and the rules and regulations during COVID-19. So we want to highlight and give face time to our artists to come and share that information.
Rowena, you mentioned that the Department of Culture is providing psych support for artists. Can you talk a little more about that?
So in our response to Hurricane Dorian, as artists, I think we are more in touch than most with the intangible, with the ethereal and the spiritual. And so we understand the importance of keeping that safe space and our psychological being. And so we provided a platform for psychologists across the Bahamas to come to the NAGB and to offer sessions for people, just because it was stressful and it still is stressful. And so kind of expanding from that, now we're in a global crisis. And so of course we need to understand our feelings. We need to understand how to navigate that. And so that's a part of our artistry, taking care of the instrument, which is also your body. In your mind and your spirit and your well-being. And so we're offering that type of support as well online. And so we have psychologists who have sessions where they're talking about how to navigate that. And so a way to find that is to go onto the NAGB Facebook page, Instagram, and look up the hashtag We Got You.
All right, I hope you guys heard that. Be sure to support hashtag We Got You on all social media platforms. Rowena, is it important for the creative community to unite during this time?
I think we have to. If we don't take care of ourselves, who will? Creatives drive what happens in this country for our community, and it has to be by our community. The artists have to galvanize. We have to unite. This is not a time for us to be in silos, because if one doesn't have, we all don't have. So we need to figure out how to get, and we have to do it together. It's incumbent upon us to unite.
All right. Thank you for that. How has the Division of Culture intended to support artists and cultural institutions during COVID-19 and beyond, really, and therefore promote Bahamian heritage and culture?
That's a really broad question and a great one, actually. I mentioned earlier that we're doing a national registry. That is going to be key to the ways in which we support the artistic community. I think we fall into a very curious pocket, because not all artists have an NIB in terms of work and can collect. from the funds that are now available through the government program. And so how do we navigate that? We're still trying to craft that so that we can intentionally respond and have a financial package for artists. That's not set in stone, but that's definitely something on our agenda. But we cannot do that without the actual data. Again, where are the needs? What are the needs? You know, it can't just be some arbitrary number. We need to be specific and support artists in as much as we can. Not only that, I also mentioned that you need, well, I'm not sure that I mentioned, but what we need is legislative support. So during that time, that's also something that we can focus on. So there is the National Cultural Policy that has not been passed as yet. That's definitely something that the ministry right now is turning our attention to so that we can push that forward. There's also a bill that has certainly been in discussions from the time of Dr. Nicolette Bethel, who once sat in the chair that I'm now in, to have a National Arts Council. The National Arts Council is key to the development of any orange economy, the CCI industries. And so what that means is you would have an agency that sort of serves as a mediary to the private sector and the public sector, and able to kind of streamline how the sectors engage with government. And so these are the strategic ways that we're looking at to support the artistic community. And it's really data driven. So I'm going to really harp on that because I want my artists to know that. When you see the questionnaires out there, I want you to respond. I want we need to, once again, you are the driver, and we need to hear what your needs are. We need to hear what you're doing and what you want to do and what you want to see. So please give us that data, and that's how we can best support you.
So we've been combing through social media, and we have a question for you, Mrs. Sutherland. And it says, a number of artists are eager to contribute to culture, particularly during this COVID-19 period. Is the Ministry of Culture sponsoring or conducting any paid competition during this time?
Any paid competitions? We are not conducting paid competitions at this time, but that's something that is on the agenda we're seeking to do. We recognize that at this time, not only in the Bahamas, but around the world, that this needs to be an opportunity where we can provide platforms for artists to work, seeing as we have been the most hard hit and affected by this crisis. And so that's definitely something on the agenda, but not implemented as yet.
This pandemic has affected the national festive spirit, which defines who we are as a people. Does the department see itself as having the responsibility of uplifting, if not leading, the emotional recovery of the country through culture?
Yes, we do. We do, absolutely. And I think that is a global response from all ministries of culture. I once went to a African Caribbean Pacific states meeting in Brussels, and it was filled with directors of culture, and it was referred to as the feel-good ministry. Ministries of culture are responsible for the temperature and the climate of the people in our country. And so we are there to essentially make people feel good, make people feel proud, to bolster morality. And so we are certainly tasked with it. And it's quite a large task, and we cannot do it alone. Again, we have to be partners with our drivers in this, who are our artistic community.
All right, Bahamian artists, I hope you heard that. It's really your duty now to unite and to boost the morale of our people during this time. We're going to take a short break. We're having a conversation with the Director of Culture from the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, Mrs. Rowena Poitier Sutherland. We'll be right back.
The Ministry of Health is working to ensure the safety of the Bahamian people. Help us minimize the risk that coronavirus poses to citizens, residents, and visitors by following these 5 easy steps. Step 1. Wet your hands with clean water, apply soap and lather for 20 seconds by rubbing them together. Include the top of your hands between your fingers and under your fingernails. Rinse your hands under clean water, then dry them with a paper towel or air dry them. Remember to wash your hands before and after eating, preparing a meal, changing a diaper, or caring for the sick, and always after using the bathroom, touching money, shaking hands, or taking out the trash. Step 2. Cough and sneeze in your elbow or upper sleeve, not in your hands, not in the air. Or you can cover your nose and mouth with a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Put your used tissue in the trash bin when you are finished. Remember to wash your hands with soap and clean water after you cough or sneeze. Also, remember never to spit on the ground, roads, or in open spaces. Step 3. Ensure that raw meat is properly handled and cooked thoroughly. Step 4. Avoid sharing drinking glasses, eating utensils like spoons and forks, or sharing personal items such as toothbrushes and towels. Germs can live on surfaces we touch, so wipe and disinfect surfaces where germs can live, and keep your surroundings clean. Step 5. Avoid close contact with anyone showing symptoms of respiratory illness, such as coughing or sneezing. Should you or anyone you know feel that you have been exposed to the coronavirus, contact the surveillance unit of the Ministry of Health immediately. To reach us, call 502-4776, 502-4790, or 502-4737. We want Bahamians and those that live with and visit us to remain safe from the coronavirus. To do this, we need the help of each and every one of you to follow the simple steps we have shared. Let's stay safe, Bahamas.
Welcome back to another episode of A Closer Look from the Streets, Physical Distancing Edition, powered by Zoom. I'm your host, Leah Cooper, and we're having an awesome conversation with the Director of Culture from the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture, Mrs. Rowena Poitier-Sutherland. It's a pleasure having you with us, Mrs. Sutherland. And we know that on April 22nd, UNESCO brought together ministers of culture in an online meeting on COVID-19 and its impact on culture. Can you share anything that came from that meeting, and what was the message that emerged from that?
Yes, that was a very insightful meeting. About 126 countries participated, and there were contributions from each minister just to give the analysis of what we knew so far in terms of the industries of culture and the temperature of our country. And the takeaway from that was that we need to support our artists, that artists have been the hardest hit, but also that artists will be the most called upon during this time to uplift every country that spoke, which was 126 countries. And so we discussed, the ministers discussed ways in which we can provide opportunities and platforms for artists to do this. Also from that meeting, it was discussed how can we, across the divide internationally, come together to support one another? What type of programs can we offer? What types of grants can we access from UNESCO, from other agencies? And so those were really the main points that came from that discussion.
All right, good stuff. The world over, archivists at universities, museums, libraries, and other institutions have begun to put out calls for oral histories from people weathering the evolving COVID-19 pandemic. Any plans for the Department of Culture to partner with the University of the Bahamas to do the same? They're calling this Rapid Response Collection.
Mm-hmm. We have not actually engaged the University of the Bahamas, but that is definitely something that we are working on. There was a recent discussion at the minister's level in regard to capturing not only the data through the registry, but capturing what our nation's response is during COVID-19 and the oral traditions and sort of marrying that information and doing a documentary, doing a written series. And so we are looking at that approach, and we are going to be strategic in how we take that on. And definitely the University of the Bahamas would be a welcome partner.
All right. Are there any final thoughts before we close? Any other exciting plans that the department has in store?
Yes, actually. I'm excited about culture, but I think that I'm biased, Leah. But I want artists to be encouraged, to know that you have support, and now is the time to get what you want. And what do I mean by that? Now is the time for action. Now is the time for us to be taken seriously in this country as artists, and to be able to work here with dignity, and to be able to support our families and have a livelihood. And so how do we do that? We do that by being united We do that by sharing information, and we do that by being informed and collaborating with each other and not pulling each other down. So I'm looking forward to our partnership. I'm looking forward to legislation being passed in terms of our cultural policy and our National Arts Council bill. Ask questions. I think now more than ever, we need not focus on the anger and the hurt, of which there is a lot. And it's understandable and it's reasonable, but what now? What are we doing? Let's focus on the action. And so that's my last message to the artistic community.
Well, I just want to thank you for everything, Mrs. Sutherland. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and I'm sure artists across the country are happy about the support that you guys are trying to get for them. We have to do this again.
Please, let's do this again. And I want to say thank you for this opportunity and this platform. And I say this and I bring this information on behalf of our permanent secretary at the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, and of course, our fearless leader, the Honorable Lanisha T. Roll, Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture. We're here for you. Artists are the drivers. So look us up online, #WeGotYou.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Sutherland. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. It's been a wonderful conversation. And be sure to support the #WeGotYou on all social media platforms. This has been another episode of A Closer Look from the Streets, Physical Distancing Edition, powered by Zoom. I'm your host, Leah Cooper. From today's conversation, it's clear that we must do all we can to support the Division of Culture and to join in the cause with local artists to promote a sense of hope during this time. See you next time.